Hi everyone, Sabrina here, and today I'll be showing you my first 10 cards, one kit, using the Hero Arts January card kit. This was a Valentine's themed kit, and I will say that I kind of struggled just because it's more of like an elegant kind of card kit, and I'm more of a cutesy type of card maker. But I do end up liking all 10 cards that I make. So here I'm just showing you what came in the kit. Beautiful dies. I really love that heart die that came in the kit. So for my first card, the first thing that I thought of was to create a window card. So I'm going to take that patterned cardstock that held the dies in the stamp set, and I'm going to cut that down to 4 by 5 1/4. And then I'll take that heart die and run that through my Gemini. And then I also cut out a black heart using the same die. So in order to create a window card, I had to cut through my card base, but don't do what I'm doing here, because as you can see, I forgot to open the bottom flap. So what ended up happening was that the front cut out completely, but then the bottom part of my card base actually embossed, and I left it in because I actually really like how that looks, the embossed part of it, and I will end up using the bottom part of that card base in another card. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the correct way of cutting a window card. So here I have a new Nina card base. I'm going to place my pink cardstock over that so that I know where to cut through my card. And then usually I use some washi tape to make sure that it doesn't shift through my machine. And then I just run it through. I use the Gemini. It's a great die cut machine because you don't need any shims even for these really intricate dies. So for the sentiment, I chose "Love You So Much," and I'm going to stamp that on some black cardstock using white embossing powder. And I apologize for the weird camera angle. I just moved into my new apartment and this is my first video. So I do figure out that it's a little bit awkward, and I will change my camera for the next 9 cards. So you only have to watch it for this first card. So here is the window card. Sorry, I kind of skipped through the assembling part. All I did was I glued down some acetate on the inside of the card base, and then I glued down that black right on top of the acetate. And I used 3-in-1. I really recommend that glue if you like to create window cards or shaker cards where you don't want to see any glue marks, because it is a clear glue and you can't see it through the acetate. And you'll see at the end of this card, I'll zoom in, and I didn't even end up putting another black heart on the inside, but I did go ahead and cut out an extra panel with the heart and glue that on the inside of the card base so that it would hide the acetate. So here I wanted to create a bow, so I'm going to glue down the ribbon that came in the kit. And then I'll take the sequins from the kit, and I fished out the clear ones, and I'll go ahead and glue those on top of the black heart. And then I also glued down a clear heart sequin in the center of my bow. And I really think that that finished the card off really nice. I've never been a huge sequin fan just because I feel like they're kind of distracting, but the clear ones, they kind of blend into your project. So I definitely like those. I actually use only the clear ones for all these cards. So here you can see the acetate through the back, but on this one I did put another white panel to cover the acetate. And that actually ended up being my favorite card, but this one, card number 2, is my least favorite, just because I had that really pretty embossed heart that we made from the first card, and I just kind of stamp right over. So now I'm looking at the card, I have no idea what to do, so I just set it aside, and the next day I come back to work on it. Here's when I figured out a better camera position, and I'm just going to zoom in so I can show you guys the pretty embossing. So here I decided to take, or I'm just showing you that I used the 2 inks. I decided to take some 1/4 inch double-sided tape. And I did glue that down crooked now that I'm looking at the video. And then I take the embossing powder from the kit and sprinkle it over, because I totally thought that the embossing powder was glitter. So when I realized it's embossing powder, I'm like, okay, well I probably have to heat set it. So when I do that, it actually buckles up and it's not very attractive. So at this point I'm really mad. Well, not mad, I'm just kind of not loving the card. However, after finishing these 5 cards, because I'm going to be breaking it up into 2, I decided that I'll mail this card to John Mayer, because apparently his 2018 New Year's resolution is to reply to fan mail. So that'd be awesome. But I don't want to send him an extravagant card or anything, because I like to save those for family members or friends. So here, I really wanted to cover those bumps that I made from the heat tool, so I did cut that die from the kit, and I'll just glue it right over that embossed strip. And that will complete card number 2. For card number 3, I wanted to create a shaker card, but I figured a lot of people would probably be using the heart die that came in the kit as their shaker card. I do want to incorporate 1 interactive card for every kit that I do. So for this one, I decided to do a shaker card, and so I will cut the outline out of that pattern paper, and then I'll cut the and sign out of the red cardstock. When I first got the kit, I didn't know how the dies worked, or this particular die. Apparently it layers up rather than cuts fully out, unless you use the outline, of course, but I didn't want to use it because then you wouldn't tell that it's a shaker card. So I did have to hand cut that out. It wasn't a big problem. Most of it was already cut anyway. I just had to snip some things off. I stamped the sentiment "Sending Love and Friendship" onto that red cardstock, and I'm just going to hand cut that out and glue it right over that embossing that I didn't end up liking with the brown cardstock. And I really like the Hero Arts kit. I asked for this kit for Christmas because I feel like you get the most value out of it for what you pay for. In here, at first, I cut that sentiment into a square, but I didn't like how boxy that looked, so I will go ahead and cut each word out. And I like that better. I think the sentiment pops out a little bit more. Alright, so now I'm ready to assemble my shaker card. So I have some acetate. I'm going to use my 3-in-1 glue and glue down my acetate. And then I have some foam tape that is the equivalent of 2 3M foam tapes combined. So it's a really thick foam tape. And if you want to know where I got it, I can leave the link below. I know that it's kind of a box online store, so you have to buy a certain amount. But I remember I only paid like $6 for this foam tape, and it's gonna last a lifetime. It's like just as big as the 3M tapes. But I really like this tape because I don't have to double layer it. It's already the thickness that you would normally use for a shaker card. And this store offers like different thicknesses, so they have really thick, like pop dot thick, and then they have more of the foam tape, which is a little bit thinner. So here I'm just showing you how thick it is. And the downside of this tape is that it's really sticky, but what you can also do is they have different options for stickiness, and I think I chose one of the more sticky ones because I wasn't sure if this product would be good, even good, because I was like really skeptical about the price of it. But overall, I would recommend it. But you can see, even using my Tim Holtz scissors, it is really sticky. and it is a little bit difficult to peel back the paper. Also, I would like to mention that this was my trouble card. Although I really like how it looks in the end, I didn't put enough sequins in and I didn't like the background of it. So I do end up peeling everything back up, and this is very, very sticky. So here it is, what it looks like now, but I didn't put enough sequins in and I didn't like that stark white background. So like I said, I'm going to peel everything up, and it was pretty difficult because that is very sticky tape. But I end up pulling it off, and I will show you the revised card. I don't think it looks bad now. I was kind of stingy with my sequins. And then I'll go ahead and glue down that brown strip. And then layer the red sentiment over the messed up one. And I use those little scissors you see on the left-hand corner that I'm using now. Those are fabric scissors, and what I found is if I use regular scissors, the paper kind of frays, so I would recommend those kind of scissors if you have them. I use them also for my embroidering, for my stitching, so. The glue that I use, if you're wondering again, I always use 3-in-1. It's a great glue to create shaker cards or box cards or anything using acetate, but the tape tends to bubble up and it's kind of a gooey mess, so you do have to watch that glue. So here I took everything apart and I put a black panel instead of the white, and I like that a lot more. So for card number 3, I do have to give credit to a YouTuber named Cards and Coffee Time. I almost copied this card exactly. I changed up a little bit of it, but the layout is completely hers, and I will give her credit for that. So what I did is I used that and symbol, and using the pink shimmery cardstock, I cut the and symbol through that. And as you can see, it doesn't cut through all the way unless you use that line. But it is a really pretty die because it layers up. And I decided to also use my Paper Smooches stitch die. And I will go ahead and stitch around the whole rectangle. It doesn't take as long as you think it does. And I apologize for the weird lighting. This is at nighttime. Yeah, it took about 15 minutes to stitch that whole thing. And then I'm going to take the you and the me from the stamp set. And I will stamp and emboss that on white cardstock using the pink embossing powder that came in the kit. And then I will hand cut that with my scissors into little rectangles, and then I'll use some pop dots to pop those two words. And then I decide to pop up that whole panel. This isn't 4 by 5 1/4. I think I did 3 3/4 by 5. So I will pop up the whole panel, and I also pop up parts of the and symbol so that it doesn't squish in the mail and flatten out. So the sentiment reads, you and me. And I will link the original Cards and Coffee Time video in the description. She makes great videos. The videos I watch of the 10 cards 1 kit, they actually are the reason I'm into card kits, because I've never been a fan of them because I don't like being restricted to not being able to choose my own stamps or my own dies or my own supplies. But I found that the Simon Says stamp, the Hero Arts, the Love from Lizzie, I love all of them, and it was difficult to choose, but ultimately I wanted the kit that had the dies included. And this also comes with so many other things, and it's always probably been my favorite in terms of, trying to decide which card kit to choose. So here I'm going to take some foam tape. Again, this is some really cheap foam tape, but I have my own business, so I remember I got this online store in the mail, and I did have to buy a minimum amount of supplies, which wasn't hard for me because I buy supplies all the time because I sell all my cards. So it might not be a good deal if you're just, crafting on the weekends. You're not really using a whole lot of supplies all the time. This is my full-time job. This is what pays my rent, so these cheaper supplies are better for me. And so I can afford to buy a whole bunch of quantity because I go through it really fast. So here I am, I'm going to pop up the die. And that will complete card number 3. I really like how that came out. I love the stitching. Very simple, but effective, I think. So for the last card of this series, or not, well, for this video, I will have part 2 up sometime this week, I think. I really like how this card turned out as well. So I took that heart that we took from the first card, and I also grabbed this Love Ya stamp from Lawn Fawn. And at first I stamped it on that pretty shimmer cardstock, but I didn't like how that looked, so I'm going to just stamp it on some white Nina and die cut that out. I really recommend the Gemini for these intricate dies because you don't need a shim at all. It's a really strong die cutting machine, and I've been through a bunch of them, and I found that this is my all-time favorite. So I use that really pretty pattern paper that came in the kit. Again, it's like fabric paper, and I think that's maybe 1/2 inch. I glued that to the side of my card base. And then I took the rest of that shimmer pink cardstock and glued that to the other side. If I were to redo this card, I would probably pop up that shimmery cardstock, but at this point I had no idea what I was doing, so I wasn't sure how this card would end up looking. But yeah, totally winged this card. Here I am, I'm going to glue down that heart with some 3-in-1. And then I'll also glue down the Love Ya right on top of that heart. Oh, and by the way, I did stamp the Love Ya using the red ink that came in the kit. I believe I used everything that came in the kit. So now I'm kind of trying to decide what to do next. I did want to cover that seam where the 2 papers met. So I'm like, well, should I use the ribbon? I don't think the ribbon matched well with the other colors, but I will come back to that. Again, I took the clear sequins from the pack and I'll glue that down in a diagonal. And you'll see, I think the reason I'm not a huge fan of the sequins, apart from I think they're a little distracting, I also don't care for the hole that they have. So I do have these little teeny tiny hearts that I save when I die cut certain dies. They come with little teeny hearts within it's hard to explain, but I had these really tiny hearts. I will glue those in the center of those sequins to cover the holes. And here I stamped a Lawn Fawn heart and hand cut that with my scissors. And then I'll take some Wink of Stella shimmer pen and glitter those up, and then I'll also go over the Love Ya. And then I decided to put glossy accents on. And I swear every card had at least one detrimental disaster happen. And this is probably the worst. My glossy accents was clogged. So that happened. I at first thought I could wave it around and maybe... No, that didn't work. So you can see that dripping down. That was me running to my kitchen to get a paper towel. Luckily, this paper has like a gloss or a sheen to it, so it was really easy to kind of swipe it off without noticing it too much. But I don't think it would have worked with normal paper, so I'm glad it wasn't a total disaster. And then I'll also put glossy accents over the Love Ya. And then here I came back. I had some leftover embroidery floss from the last card we made. So I'm just going to glue that to the side. And then tie a little bow. And at first I thought I wanted it down there. And now that I'm looking at it, I think it looks good down there. But I did move it to the top. And there you can see the little hearts that I added to the center of those sequins. I liked it, kind of tied in more red, which I thought was pretty. So that's the end of card 5. Here's a picture of all 5 of them together. In part 2, I will show you all 10 cards at the end of the video, but for this one I just showed a picture. Thanks again for visiting my channel, and stay tuned for part 2.